Ooh,
All right, today on Psychobilly Zoom 6, we've got Paul Hodges, or Hodge to his mates, and not his people that aren't his mates as well, I
mate. That's
imagine.
mate. That is mate.
of of the Sharks predominantly, is what we're talking about, and whatever came before the Sharks. Oh, brilliant to see you again. It's been a
Yeah,
while.
yeah. Very
Um,
long.
yeah, there's been all sorts of shit going on between the last time we saw each other, and wheels came off the van and stuff like that.
I can't remember when that was. To be honest with you.
That was going back, it was about 30 years ago now, but we both survived, obviously. So what we're doing with this series is like as if we could go back and ask Elvis, Scotty, and Bill about the early days. So what we're after is, I mean, first of all, when did you first become aware of like rocking music, whether it was rockabilly, psychobilly, whatever? I mean, how did that come into your orbit?
Um, I have to say that would be when I was at school. Via Steve Whitehouse, to be honest with you, because I was when I was at school, I was into ska music, like the specials and all that stuff. That was sort of about 1981, 82 time, and
Yeah.
I had no. I mean, I'd seen the Polecats, I think, in the Jets on Top of the Pops, and probably turned it over. I don't know, but so I didn't. I wasn't into that sort of music, and Stephen Gavin Lusby used to be in the Shaking Quiff. I don't know if you've spoken to him ever, but they used to come into our common room at school and like dance. They'd put a record on and do like this rockabilly dance, and we should just take the piss, just proper take the piss because it was just funny, really, to see that two kids with massive quiff dancing around, and especially there's no one else in the school that was doing it as well, which was quite bizarre. And I kind of, I don't know, I kind of got friendly with Steve. He's very sort of pushy character, and I think I can't remember who was in there. They had a band called the Shaking Quiffs at the time, yeah, that I later joined. I'm not sure they had a. I think it was either what's it? Adam Sevier was playing drums for him, or Merv Peplog. I can't remember which one it was, but Adam was in another band. He was like in a covers band with his brother.
And
His dad.
you guys all in school together then? I mean, that's
They were
basically the friends you line up
Adams
and
and Merv are younger.
yeah,
And I think Gavin Lusby's younger as well. Me and Steve were in the same year, but not in the same class.
yeah, right.
Um, and and I think because it must have been. I mean, if you ever get to talk to Steve, he'll if this is wrong, he'll correct me. But I think it was Adam that was in the band. But because he was in the covers band was called Phoenix, and they were really good. They were young kids, obviously, but their dad used to get them loads of gigs, and they were doing like all the pub circuit and clubs and doing a lot of gigs for a young band. And he just went off and did that. So they needed a drummer, and I've just been bought a drum kit, and I think I must have told a load of people about it. Steve got to know about it, and he said he just kept on and on and on about me joining this band. And I wasn't really into it, to be honest with you, but I wanted to play the drums in a band, and it was really quite weird because I was into the specials. The specials split up in 1982. You probably remember, and I can remember a conversation with Steve. It was in one of the woodwork rooms, yeah, at school. And he said, "Oh, now the specials are split up. You can come and join our band." Or something, you know what I mean? Something along those lines. I was like, why not? And so I kind of joined his band. And I never knew anything about rockabilly music, really. And I said to myself, yeah, but look at me. I was out of hair like this back then. I said, I can't be in a rockabilly band. I'm not the party. He goes, oh no, that's all right. He goes, you can be. And I should never forget it. Because you can be a hep cat. And Ben, I didn't know anything about rockabilly or anything. And I said, well, what's a hep cat? And he goes, oh, you have short hair at the back, a bit like your side, to be fair. He goes, you have short hair at the back and have a little quiff at the front. I said, oh, well, I'll give it a go. And I kind of grew this little wispy quiff kind of thing, and just joined his band. And me and Steve then become really good friends. And he started introducing me to because he was a proper good record. I mean, he collects everything, but he was a record collector, and he had like so many albums. And he introduced me to the Polecats, the Shaking Pyramids, the Rockats. Remember them?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
used to
I'm trying
love
to
the
get
Rockats.
smutty on. Yeah,
Oh, are you?
yeah.
I used to love. I think it was a live album that he used to play, and I used to love it. And I used to go around his house, and I used to stay the night, and we got really friendly. And then obviously you kind of get to learn about it, and I'd completely forgotten about the specials and all that. I was just listening to like rockabilly, blah blah blah. And there's no psychobilly at the time, I don't think. I think this is before or before I'd ever heard of psychobilly. But that's basically it. And then we just did a few gigs with the shaking quiffs.
So were you like a proficient drummer? How long had you been playing, or did he have to? Did he sort of teach you? He's a musician already, I'm assuming.
No, I've always been able to play the drum side, really, to be honest. I've never had any lessons. I'm not going to sound gifted because I'm certainly not. But I've always been able to play the drums. Just always been able to play. And still to this day, I'm in a band now. We're quite busy, but I've just always been able to just play. It's just one of those things. I haven't got many gifts, or I can't do many things, but that's just one thing. But I could instantly, just as I got a drum kit, I instantly just could do it. And to be fair as well, rockabilly music's not really, it's not the most technical of things, is it? If you can do one beat and stay in time, you can pretty much play in a rockabilly band, can't you?
Right. So one of the first people, well, the first person I spoke to on this for this series, probably I thought I'd go for the most reliable. So it was Alan Wilson, and he
Yeah,
told us
yeah.
a bit about how these lads that were in the Shaking Quiffs basically became the rhythm
But
section of the
let me
band.
just plug my phone in 2 secs.
Yeah. Well, I talked about most
Sorry,
reliable,
mate.
everyone.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I'm a bit of a cock. I'm not very
Not at all.
technical. Yeah,
We're warts and all on this show.
that's what I like. There you go. Let's get back. Back in the old. Oh shit! Joke, mate. I'll take it that way. Trying to get the phone to sit out. That's it.
That's it. You got it. You're back. You're back in the game, right? We leave
Go
everything
on.
in here. So
Yes.
that's a good transition actually. So you're tapping away in the Shaking Quiffs with Steve. Who else is in the band at the
It was
time? Then
Gavin Lusby.
okay. I don't know him, but so you're in the band with Gavin. So what happened to poor old Gavin when you decided to become a shark instead? And how did that come about anyway?
Uh, well, how did that come about? Let me think. I'll tell you what it was. Steve, um, he's seen Alan on a TV program. What was it called? It was like a news sort of thing that was on. What's it called? And his band, the Sharks, I think they're called the Dixie Rebels even at the time. They showed them live doing like 4 or 5 songs. Um, and what's it called? Fucking program. Anyway, and Steve's seen that program. I think I might watch it. We might watch it together. But that was what. And Steve just seen Alan on this program. And sorry. Before that, we did have a couple of songs on a Nervous album called Stack of Records, and that was with Gavin Lusby. That was a Shaking Quiffs, and we just went to London and recorded these 2 songs in the same studio that Madness recorded their first album. Funny enough, I can't think of what it's called, but yeah, that was. It's a proper shit. It was like a cupboard. The studio was proper shit, and I remember thinking, "Yeah, Madness have recorded in here." And it's like, it's real shit. But yeah, we did these 2 songs, and then Steve. He got hold of Alan. He might have wrote him a letter. I don't even know back then. But he got hold of Alan and just kept on and on. I know he phoned him. He kept phoning him up because he kept phoning him up from my house. That was right. So I don't think Steve's mum let him use the phone. his mum wouldn't let him keep using the phone. So he used to come around to my house and used to phone up from my house. He used to phone Alan. Alan wasn't always interested in talking to him really, but Steve was very persistent, and I think he got. I mean, he must have convinced me. So I think he probably used the fact that we had that Roy Williams contact. It was only ever just that. We just had 2 songs on a compilation. That was all it ever was. And I think Steve must have convinced Alan, and we just went over to rehearse with Alan. We used to rehearse in Alan's mum and dad's bungalow lounge. And I think what happened to Gav? I think Steve probably just told him that what he was doing. He probably said, "Oh, we're going to join a band now. We got a better guitar player, and we're going to go off and get a record deal." Steve probably said something like that because that's what Steve was like. Do you know what I mean? Just if it wasn't, I don't think he was necessarily lying. I think he just used to get these big ideas in his head, and it would become his reality. So I think that's probably what happened. I think
Yeah.
I think Gavin wasn't very happy about it, and I don't think they've ever got on since. Really, to be honest with you.
So when you were doing this sort of stuff, were you like when you discovered well Steve and then through him discovered Psychobilly and all that? Did you or Rockabilly? Were you like going to gigs? Were you actively as a punter going places? And if so, what was
Um,
it like?
Not really, mate. Not because where I live, where we lived in Frome, there was not really much going on. And like, I never used to. I don't think I've. I went to actually. That's not saying that. That's not technically true. I did go to see the Polecats with. I think I went with Alan and Steve. So I must have met Alan. I obviously knew Alan at that time. Went to see the Polecats in Bristol, and also went to see the Stray Cats in um, Brighton with Steve, but that was a little bit later on. But no, I wasn't really an active going to gigs and all that. I wasn't like into that. I still wasn't. I still wouldn't have classed myself as a rockabilly, if you know what I mean. I was just in a band with Steve. Do you know what I mean? But I didn't. I've never really looked upon myself as a rockabilly, not really. But I did look upon myself as a psychobilly, bizarrely, which I guess we'll come into.
We will. Now, so you're practicing in Alan's dad's garage.
Well, it's Alan's dad's lounge, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Alan. Yeah. Now, where our this is my claim to fame, where our paths crossed without actually crossing, I was in the audience, was your first gig, I'm led to believe, at Perrin Sands at that weekend when I was
Yeah, that's right.
17, and I believe you were a couple of years younger. Um, so how did you get from being, practicing at Alan's place, to doing your debut gig at a 3-day weekender?
Um, See, as I remember this, I think because Alan was in already in a band, and they were called the Dixie Rebels. They changed the name to the Sharks, and he had two other geezers in the band with him because they had electric bass. I can't think who they were. I think they were his cousins or something. But, no, they were. I know who they were. They were his. I think it might have been his wife's. So it might have been his two brother-in-laws. Anyway, he he was never really happy with them in the band, so he by this time we'd met and we had a couple of rehearsals, just a couple of rehearsals, and I think one of the guys or two, or both of them, couldn't make the gig in Parents' Hands. So I think Al just said, "Well, okay, can we do it?" And we were like, we'd only had two rehearsals, and bear in mind, like Al's. Well, you know yourself, he's an encyclopedia of music, especially rockabilly music, yeah. And he was back there, and he's even more so now, I would imagine. And his knowledge of it was we were doing all these songs. A lot of them I'd never even heard. He used to show us how it used to go. We used to play them. Steve obviously knew him, and he just said, "Do you want to do this gig in Parents' Hands?" And we were like, Steve was obviously well up for it, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't mind." And so off we went in this van, and I don't think. I mean, I know I certainly wasn't driving, and so nor was Steve. And I don't think Alan. I think Alan might have been driving, but I don't know if he's old enough to get the insurance. So I think his dad drove us, or his father-in-law, or someone drove us down there in this hire van. It was mental. I wish I could remember it like every single detail because it'd be really funny to remember. But yeah, that's basically it, mate.
Okay, so then I mean you've done that gig. I remember it very well because me and my mate lived in Tiverton. It was even more of a backwater than Frome, and it's the first time we'd actually seen people wearing pink. We knew about pink pegs, but there's no way you could buy them anywhere. And my
Wow.
mate Michael said to me, look, they're wearing pink pegs, not you guys, but people in the audience, younger
Yeah.
people. And I think you might have clashed with one of the older acts on the other stage in the main hall. So it was mostly us younger ones that were in there to watch you guys. And
Did you
but I
know who?
don't
Did you heard of us before?
no,
Or
not at
no?
all. But
No.
it said, I think on the thing, it was a showstoppers event, wasn't it? I think it said something like young rockabilly or neo rockabilly or something like that under your
Wow.
description, which is why we thought it was more our thing because we were already fed up with getting growled at by old teddy boys that were probably only in their 30s, but we thought they were old. So I remember, and I took some. I think Al's got the pictures there. I took a few pictures and stuff. So you did that gig. I remember it being really enjoyable, but I don't remember it being anything about taking a razor to your
Well, it is.
head or it
No, I
was
don't
that
think
was
we didn't have
before
any of
that,
those.
wasn't it?
We haven't done any of those songs then, did we?
No.
We did a set of covers. It's on first and last. I think
Yeah,
that
I
gig.
should have dug it out and listened to it. But I remember there's a couple of songs that other bands had done, like Polecat songs and things like that one there.
We
There
might have
was
done. We
anyway,
say we could have done. We say yeah. I think possibly.
yeah, could have been. I can't remember. But anyway, so you're there. So what happens next?
Um, obviously we done this gig, which obviously would have been a proper buzz, and then we would have come back, and we would have been, I guess we would have been chatting about, what we're going to do next. I think Alan then had made up his mind that he didn't want to have the other two guys in the band, and he wanted to carry on with me and Steve. Steve, I think I want to say the word lie, because it's. I think Steve had just bullshitted out and convinced Al that he told Al that we had this record deal with Nervous, which we never. It was just a one-off thing, and so I remember rehearsing in, because Alan used to have like a little music shop right on the corner in Portland, a tiny little place, and we used to rehearse in there. And he phoned up because Alan had this phone line in the shop, right? That for some reason he never got a bill for it. I mean, it was really weird. So we used to phone up all sorts of. Well, you know what he's like. He used to phone up with some fucking do all these prank calls, everything. But one day we were in there one day, and he said, "I'll phone up Roy. We'll play him. Must have been one of our own songs or something." Whatever. Anyway, we play it down the phone to Roy. So we phoned up Roy, put the phone on the side of the counter, and we just played a couple of songs. And Roy Williams said, "Yeah, man, I love it. I love it. I'll sign you. I'll do an album with you." But that was only because Alan. It wasn't. I mean, if Alan hadn't been in the band, we wouldn't have ever got anything. I mean, Steve will tell you differently, yeah, but we would never ever have got any. It had to be that three. I mean, Roy, bless his heart, he's a visionary man. He must have known that something would happen with it. Do you know what I mean? And it would be an exciting thing, which it was for a while, And yeah, so that was basically we got a record deal over the phone in Alan's little shop. Mad, yeah.
Right? How soon after that phone call did you get up there and do it?
Um. Oh God. Well, we had to write some songs first. I mean, we didn't have any songs, so we used to. I remember writing a couple of songs with Steve in Steve's bedroom, and amongst all the clutter, we wrote a couple of songs. Steve had already written a few songs. Alan got writing a few songs. I wrote a couple of songs with Alan. So I suppose the time frame would have been. I mean, again, correct me if I'm wrong. They can correct me on this, but I suppose the time frame between that phone call, playing down the phone, and recording, because we recorded the album in two different studios. We didn't just go into a studio and just do it all at once. We did it in two different studios. I suppose the time frame not very long. I would imagine a few months. I would imagine.
Okay,
Roy was on it. He just,
I suppose when you're young, you've got to get it done and get it out there. I'm just going to say at this point, if anybody likes this stuff, and what we're doing here is to like and subscribe to the channel. But also, if you're watching it on YouTube, go over to my website because you've sent me some fantastic photos. Now, tell me about the first one where there's all you lads. I mean, you look like children, and you say a lot of them have gone on to.
When with the other guys, the other
Yeah,
band
because if they look on my website, they'll see this photo. Yeah.
I got sent that by Gavin Lusby about. Because I was going to do some recording with him a few years back, and he just sent me this photo. Just said, "Oh, you remember this?" And that was basically because the school we were at, it was called Froome College, and they had a theatre called the Merlin Theatre. Like it was part of the school. We used to go there for drama, blah blah blah. And they had this concert. They put a concert on with that band. I can't remember what they were called, and it's got the drummer of the Cure, who's the drummer of the Cure now, was in the band. So he was at our school for a while. A guy called Rob Perkins, who was in the bill for a few years. He was like the sergeant major in the thing. He's been in loads of stuff. And our little band with Gavin Lusby, me and Steve. So I think that would have probably been, if it wasn't our first gig, it was only our second ever gig with the Shaking Crisp, because I think our first gig might have been at school in a school assembly, but that was our second ever gig. I can't really remember. I kind of vague memories, but yeah, that was basically that. And I can't remember who the other band was. I think they were probably better than us.
One of the folklore things is everybody says, well, apparently for people older than me, that they were at the first Sex Pistols gigs. And I all the time when we were all hanging around a fair bit, I've heard so many people say, "Oh yeah, I used to love the Sharks when you first came out." But in actual fact, I mean, how many actual gigs were there by the Sharks in those days?
Wow! Oh my God! Well, that Perham Sands one. We did one day. The photo I sent you. was in a place called Warminster Rock and Roll Club, yeah. And in fact, one of the lyrics in what is it? If you're tired of dancing on the floor in your beautiful pea green suit, the guy who booked us, can't remember his name. He was like a teddy boy, yeah, and he booked us to play at Warminster Rock and Roll Club under the impression that we were some sort of rock and roll band, which maybe Alan or whoever, or Steve might have said, yeah, we're rock and roll. And of course, we turned up, and you can see we all had makeup on, and that makeup I think came from the I think off the idea from the Polecats. We just all turned up, went on stage, and just did our thing, and he ended up pulling the plugs out, and there was a few. I don't even know who they were. If I don't even know if they were Rockabilly, to be honest with you. I think he might have been pissed off because he stopped the music, and they smashed the toilets out of these kids. So, and that would have been our second gig. We did a gig in Holland that is the second side of that live album.
But the last.
So that would have been the last gig. That's right. Mate, honestly, half a dozen, if that, half a dozen. I honestly can't say we did any more. So if anyone was at those gigs, fair play.
That was quite good, because once again, you've got to go over to my website and see these pictures. But I mean, once again, you look alarmingly young in your pink and your blue and your yellow pegs, and that makeup. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean that's way before anybody else was doing that sort of stuff.
Before it. Yeah, and I'll tell you, that took a lot of bottle to do. I didn't want to do it. I was a bit like, oh, I don't know. When we did it, I don't know, mate. It's just. So, yeah, I know. It was way before anyone else had done it. Yeah.
Who said?
Yeah, mad.
Who said? I tell you what.
It could have been Steve's idea. Thinking about it.
This would go down well at a Teddy Boy club. Just put some makeup on.
Yeah, I know. Mental, isn't it? Crazy, mate.
So, in between that, you recorded Phantom Rockers, and Phantom Rockers, as is still now sort of renowned as one of the classic sort of psychobilly albums. When it came out, I mean, I think you went to Holland on the back of it, and then
we did.
So you had the world at your fingertips, and you weren't even. How old were you then?
I must have been 16, you know.
Yeah.
Or maybe 17. Had I left school? I was between 16 and 17. I don't even know if I was driving.
So you've got this album out that everybody loves.
Yeah.
You've got a band that obviously very, you can play, and you get in the gig. You got a gig abroad, and then by the time you've come back from that gig, as far as I can understand, you're not in a band anymore. So
we actually split up on the boat on the way back, really.
Yeah. So tell us about what happened? And I mean, I know you're kids, but it's a bit of a.
Yeah, I can remember us, me and Alan, all the time on the wind up with Steve. Again, Steve, if you ever get to speak to him, I'm not having to go to Steve, because I've got a lot of respect for Steve.
Well, we're looking forward. He said he'll do one, and we have planned a couple that didn't happen,
nice.
But we will definitely get him on. Yeah.
Nice. And we just, something about it, me and Alan kind of gravitated together in a way. I mean, we stayed friends for all the time. We're still friends now, but we kind of gravitated together. We just kind of, I don't want to again use the word ganged up, because that sounds horrible. We just took the piss out of Steve. There was these skinheads on the boat on the way back, yeah, and they were like Holland Dutch football fans, and we would get like just doing stupid things. Like Steve, we were all up on this balcony above these skinheads, and they sat on this bench, and Alan just tipped a can of Coke like that, yeah, over the balcony, and of course it hit one of the skinheads. We ducked, because we knew he was going to do it. We ducked back and ran away, and Steve's looking over still like that. Skinheads look at, like, do you know what I mean? Just stupid things, and we'd run off and hide, and just for the whole trip. It's boring, and it's like 12 hours or something on that ferry, and it was we just took the piss all the way back, and it's just nonsense, like kids do. But it was me and Alan against him, if you know what I mean. And I'm not just saying that was why we split up, but we just when we came back, we just didn't kind of went and we went our sort of separate ways. It was mental, really, when I think back about it. Like talking about it now, it's like really weird, but that's basically what happened, mate. We didn't. Me and Alan kind of got on, and it was like it's just a clash, and I don't even know why. It just got worse and worse and worse, you know, as time went on. It was mad.
But did you? I mean, we obviously just want to talk about the, because you got a long career after that we could talk about, but we're not going to for the purpose of this series.
Mhm.
But so, before you're flipping 18, you've been in a band that had potential to be as big as the bands that went on to be, as big
Yeah,
as you can get
yeah,
in psychobilly.
yeah.
Anyway,
Probably
I
I could
mean,
say that.
did you not sort of did you not sort of after it sounds like you just sort of split up without actually agreeing to split up? Did you not sort of wake up one morning and think, bollocks?
Not really. To be honest with you, no, because me and Alan were close, and we just decided to do everything. And at this point as well, I think um, when we got back from Holland, I think the Meteors. I got introduced to the Meteors by Alan because I think he heard them at some gig somewhere or something, and he introduced me to the Meteors. And as soon as I heard the Meteors, well, I think probably a lot of people probably say this, don't they? But as soon as I heard the Meteors, that was it. I was like, wow, this is something else. And then Steve didn't like the Meteors. It was just, I mean, the timelines are a bit weird, but Steve was always more into the rockabilly side of things. I was, because I didn't come from that background. Alan was just open to anything. He got into the Meteors straight away, and it got me straight away. And I was like, "Wow, this is for me." And then me and Alan just kind of went off and did our own thing. We did loads of different stuff, you know, and we just then we just Steve just drifted far and far apart, and then he started Frenzy, and that was really basically it. You
You
know, but I've never had that. Like you say, I've never had that. Oh shit! Sorry, mate.
that's all right, got it.
I've never had. Oh,
Didn't have
yeah,
this trouble with Alan Wilson. No.
no, I bet you never know. I've never had that waking up in the morning thinking, no, what have I done? What have we done? What could have been
Yeah.
massive? Because I didn't think that we could ever be massive. It was just it's just a bit of fun kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? I've never had those sort of delusions of grandeur thinking the Sharks were ever going to be any more than what we actually were at the time.
Do you ever get Phantom Rockers out and give it a spin?
No. I actually, it's funny you say that. I actually listened to the live at Bedlam today in my van on the way back, just trying to get a bit of. I've got a Sharks t-shirt on as well, just trying to
Yeah.
get a little bit.
Psychobilly.
Yeah, well, no, just reminisce and get a little bit of kind of, you know what I mean? When I listen to the Sharks, not the Phantom Rockers, because it's strange because that's an iconic album, right? I mean, that's not me saying that. You said it is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Purely because of when it came out, what it was, and the fact we were together for such a short period of time, I think. But it's not very good as from our point of view, because we've all, as a musician, you get better, don't you, as you go on, and your songwriting gets better and everything improves. That was just musically not great, but the emotion in it and what it actually is unbelievable, you know. But I couldn't listen to it as a piece of like an album. It's just, you know, it's not what my thing.
I'll tell you what it is. It's the same with all of the early stuff and the early rockabilly. That's the exuberance of youth, and you can't recreate that, and you can't bottle it. And it's just that is what we're talking, and that's what we've been talking about on this series. Just trying to recreate the
That's
three
exactly
kids
what it
went
is.
in and done their thing, and it
Yeah,
was
that's exactly
yeah.
it.
Well, thanks very much for that. We will get the treble up with Steve Whitehouse at some point when I know he's
Yeah,
a
mate.
busy man. That's the thing, but Hodge, it's been brilliant to speak to you, mate. I hope to bump
And you,
into
mate.
you again in real life. We're
That'd be
getting
good.
knocking on a bit now. It needs to happen, doesn't
Yeah, it does, mate.
it?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to get this out ASAP,
Okay,
and
mate.
don't be shy to share it. It's been brilliant talking to
No, I
you.
will do.
And
Okay,
we'll leave all the falling over cameras and stuff in there. It's all good fun.
please do.
So I will. So brilliant. Thanks very much.
All right,
And
mate. Thank you.
hopefully see you soon.
Indeed. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, buddy.